Take a deep breath and let's hear a story about Grace, the passionate historian whose ordinary day of gardening led to an extraordinary discovery. The morning light filtered gently through Grace's kitchen window, casting a warm golden glow across her wooden table. The historian sipped her chamomile tea, savoring the subtle honey sweetness that lingered pleasantly on her tongue. Outside, birds chirped melodiously in the oak tree, creating a peaceful soundtrack to start the day. Grace closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of the mug between her palms and breathing in the fragrant steam. This quiet ritual had been her favorite part of the day since moving to the countryside home 3 years ago. Grace had always been drawn to history, finding comfort in connecting with the stories of those who came before us. Her shelves overflowed with books about ancient civilizations, medieval artisans, and the evolution of human culture throughout time. The soft pages beneath her fingertips always felt like portals to different worlds, their slightly musty scent a familiar comfort. Her specialization in paleontology had begun as a childhood fascination with dinosaurs and evolved into a distinguished academic career. Even now, she could recall the wonder she felt when touching her first fossil specimen. The cottage Grace called home sat on 5 acres of gently rolling land, bordered by a small creek that bubbled soothingly over smooth stones. Wild lavender grew along the garden's edge, releasing its calming scent whenever a breeze swept through the property. Grace loved to walk barefoot through the soft grass in the evenings, feeling the earth cool and yielding beneath her feet. Sometimes she would lie on her back and watch the clouds drift lazily across the vast blue sky, their shapes morphing from one beautiful form to another. After finishing her tea, Grace decided to finally begin the garden expansion she had been planning throughout the winter months. The soil in the back corner of her property seemed ideal for the herb garden she envisioned, rich and dark with promise. She gathered her gardening tools, enjoying the comfortable weight of the wooden handles and the earthy smell of the garden shed. The morning sun warmed her shoulders as she headed toward the selected spot, her pace unhurried as she listened to the rustling leaves. Grace sank her shovel into the soft earth, pleased with how easily it cut through the topsoil. The rhythmic motion of digging felt therapeutic, a gentle exercise that connected her to countless generations of humans who had tended the earth before her. Birds hopped curiously nearby, watching her work with tilted heads and occasional cheerful tweets. A light breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and freshly turned soil, a natural perfume more precious than any bottled fragrance. Grace found herself smiling, content in the simple joy of working with her hands in the nurturing presence of nature. On her 5th plunge of the shovel, a metallic clink surprised Grace as her tool struck something solid beneath the soil. Curious, she knelt down and gently brushed away the surrounding dirt with her fingers, feeling the cool, rough texture of what seemed to be stone. Sunlight caught on something embedded in the earth, reflecting a warm amber hue that stood out against the dark soil. Grace's heart quickened slightly with the thrill of discovery that had drawn her to history in the first place. With careful movements, she continued to clear away the surrounding earth, her trained eyes beginning to recognize the distinctive pattern emerging. The more soil Grace cleared away, the more certain she became that she had uncovered something extraordinary. The distinctive texture and composition matched fossils she had studied in museums and university collections throughout her career. What had appeared to be a stone was revealing itself as something much more significant, a fossilized bone fragment. Grace sat back on her heels, the sun warm on her face as she contemplated the incredible coincidence. The delicate patterns preserved in stone told a story millions of years old, waiting patiently beneath her garden all this time. Grace's fingers trembled slightly as she reached for her phone to photograph her discovery. The sunlight illuminated the fossil's details perfectly, highlighting the subtle striations and mineralized patterns that had formed over millennia. Birds continued their cheerful chorus in the background, seemingly celebrating this connection between past and present. The juxtaposition of the ancient remains against her garden gloves and modern tools wasn't lost on Grace. She felt a profound sense of wonder at being the first human to touch this particular piece of natural history. As the afternoon progressed, Grace carefully expanded the excavation area, setting up a small canopy to protect the site from the elements. The methodical work was soothing, each movement deliberate and respectful of the treasure she was uncovering. A gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of nearby clover, mixing with the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil. Grace lost track of time, absorbed in the peaceful rhythm of careful digging and brushing. Her academic training took over naturally, guiding her hands to protect the integrity of whatever lay beneath her garden. The shadows had lengthened considerably when Grace finally stood to stretch her back, amazed at how quickly the hours had passed in focused work. The golden afternoon light cast a magical glow over her garden, transforming ordinary plants into extraordinary sculptures of light and shadow. Birdsong had shifted to the softer evening melodies that always made Grace feel wrapped in a gentle acoustic embrace. She took a deep breath of the cool evening air, feeling it fill her lungs with refreshing clarity. The discovery had awakened something within her, connection to time itself that felt both humbling and exhilarating. That evening, Grace sat on her porch with a steaming mug of herbal tea, watching as fireflies began their enchanting dance across her garden. The day's excitement settled into a profound appreciation for life's unexpected gifts and beautiful coincidences. Stars emerged overhead, ancient light reaching her eyes after traveling unimaginable distances, much like how the fossil had traveled through time to meet her. The cricket's gentle chirping created a soothing natural lullaby that perfectly complemented her contemplative mood. Grace wrapped herself in a soft blanket, feeling immensely grateful for the unique path her life had taken. The next morning, Grace contacted her colleague Dr. Thomas Lynn, whose expertise in Cretaceous period fossils would be invaluable. His voice bubbled with excitement when she described her find, promising to visit as soon as possible. The validation of another expert made the discovery feel even more real and significant. Grace spent the rest of the morning carefully documenting everything about the site, the methodical work bringing a satisfying order to the extraordinary circumstance. The familiar academic process was grounding, transforming overwhelming wonder into manageable steps and observations. Dr. Lin arrived the following afternoon, his familiar face creased with an enthusiastic smile that matched Grace's own. The sound of his car crunching along her gravel driveway stirred a flock of sparrows into flight, their wings catching sunlight as they rose in perfect unison. Together they walked to the excavation site, their footsteps creating a comfortable rhythm on the soft garden path. The shared anticipation created an almost tangible energy between them, a reminder of why they had both chosen careers dedicated to uncovering the past. When Thomas knelt beside the partially exposed fossil, his gasp of appreciation confirmed what Grace already suspected. They were looking at something truly special. "This appears to be part of a theropod vertebra," Thomas said, his voice hushed with reverence, as he gently traced the air above the fossil without touching it. Grace nodded in agreement, feeling a pleasant warmth spread through her chest at having her initial assessment confirmed. Birds called to one another overhead, their songs an appropriate accompaniment to this moment of scientific connection and shared wonder. The breeze carried the sweet scent of Grace's flowering plum trees, nature's perfume enhancing this perfect moment of discovery. Together, they began planning a proper excavation, their collaborative energy making the enormous task ahead feel like an exciting adventure rather than daunting work. Over cups of aromatic tea, Grace and Thomas discussed how to proceed, their conversation flowing easily with the comfortable familiarity of longtime colleagues. The afternoon sun cast dappled shadows through the kitchen window, creating gentle patterns that danced across the table as they talked. Grace felt profoundly grateful for this unexpected turn in her life's journey, appreciating how the universe sometimes delivers exactly what we need. The prospect of a significant paleontological find on her own property felt like the perfect marriage of her personal and professional lives. As darkness fell, fireflies once again appeared in her garden, their gentle blinking a reminder of life's continuous magic and mystery. The following weeks transformed Grace's peaceful property into a carefully managed archaeological site that hummed with purposeful activity. A team of graduate students arrived, their enthusiasm infectious as they set up equipment with practiced efficiency. Morning mist rose from the meadow as they gathered for briefings, the cool dampness gradually burning away as the sun climbed higher. Grace established a daily ritual of serving fresh lemonade in the afternoon, the tart sweetness refreshing tired bodies and minds. The familiar academic environment energized Grace in unexpected ways, reminding her of the joy that comes from shared pursuit of knowledge. What had begun as a single fossil fragment gradually revealed itself to be part of a remarkably preserved skeleton of a previously undocumented theropod species. Each new bone emerged from the earth like a puzzle piece, carefully cleaned and cataloged under the team's watchful eyes. The gentle sound of brushes against ancient bone created a soothing rhythm that accompanied their work day after day. Grace often found herself pausing just to absorb the extraordinary reality that these prehistoric remains had rested beneath her garden for millions of years. The connection between her present life and this ancient creature created a profound sense of continuity that she found deeply comforting. News of the discovery spread through academic circles, bringing a stream of paleontologists eager to witness the excavation firsthand. Grace welcomed each visitor with warm hospitality, finding joy in the shared excitement that transcended different specialties and institutions. Evenings often found small groups gathered on her porch, sharing theories and stories as the sunset painted the sky in breathtaking watercolors. The comfortable murmur of conversation mixed with nighttime insect choruses, creating a soundtrack that Grace wished she could bottle and preserve. These connections reminded her that science at its best was a communal endeavor, enriched by different perspectives and collaborative spirits. As the excavation progressed, Grace developed a curious emotional connection to the dinosaur whose remains were being so carefully unearthed. She found herself wondering about the creature's life, what it had seen, how it had moved through the prehistoric landscape that once existed where her garden now stood. During quiet moments, she would sit near the site and imagine that ancient world, the air thick with different scents and sounds than those she knew today. The connection across time felt almost tangible in these moments, as if the very atoms of her body recognized their ancient neighbors. This sense of connection to the distant past brought an unexpected peace, a reminder of how brief yet meaningful all life is. Local media eventually discovered the story, and Grace found herself reluctantly stepping into a public role as the face of the discovery. Her first interview took place in her garden, butterflies dancing around flowering bushes as she carefully explained the significance of what they'd found. The reporter's genuine interest made the conversation flow naturally, and Grace found herself relaxing into the role of scientific communicator. Birds provided background accompaniment to the interview, their songs a reminder of the direct evolutionary line between the ancient dinosaur and modern wildlife. By the interview's end, Grace felt grateful for the opportunity to share her passion for paleontology with a wider audience. 6 weeks into the excavation, the team made their most exciting discovery yet, an almost perfectly preserved skull that emerged from the earth like a ghost from the past. The delicate work of exposing it took 3 full days, everyone moving with increased focus and gentleness. The skull revealed distinctive features that confirmed what they had begun to suspect. They had discovered a previously unknown species. Sunlight caught the mineralized bone, highlighting textures that told the story of the preservation process that had occurred over millions of years. Grace found herself holding her breath as the final portions were revealed, overwhelmed by the privilege of being present for this moment. That evening, a spontaneous celebration erupted at Grace's home, with team members sharing a meal under the stars. Someone brought out a guitar, and soon soft music floated through the warm night air, complementing the natural chorus of evening creatures. The scent of grilling vegetables and fresh bread mingled with the sweet perfume of Grace's garden flowers in full bloom. Laughter bubbled up frequently, the shared joy of discovery creating bonds that transcended professional relationships. Grace looked around at the faces illuminated by lantern light and felt a wave of gratitude wash over her for this unexpected community that had formed around her discovery. Dr. Lin suggested they name the new species after Grace, a proposition that brought tears to her eyes and was met with enthusiastic agreement from the team. The formal scientific designation would include her name, immortalizing her connection to this remarkable find. Fireflies performed their nightly dance as the team discussed the details, their tiny lights matching the sparkling emotion Grace felt expanding in her chest. The honor felt overwhelming in the best possible way, connecting her name permanently to the historical record she had dedicated her life to studying. That night, Grace fell asleep to the gentle symphony of crickets, her dreams filled with prehistoric landscapes and a profound sense of belonging to something larger than herself. The challenge of properly preserving the complete skeleton soon became apparent, requiring specialized equipment and expertise beyond what they had on site. After careful consideration, Grace made the difficult decision to allow the fossil to be relocated to the university's paleontology laboratory. The morning of the move brought a gentle rain that seemed to match Grace's bittersweet mood as she watched the carefully packed crates being loaded. Raindrops created a soothing patter on the temporary roof they had constructed, nature's calming percussion easing the transition. Though she knew it was the right decision for proper scientific study, Grace felt a curious emptiness watching part of her land's history being taken away. Grace accepted the university's invitation to participate in the laboratory work, establishing a new routine that balanced time at her home with days spent in the state-of-the-art facility. The rhythmic hum of climate control systems and gentle clicks of preservation tools created a different kind of soothing environment than her garden. Working alongside specialists in fossil preservation, Grace learned new techniques that connected her more deeply to her field of study. The meticulous work required complete focus, offering a different kind of meditation than gardening had provided. Each cleaned bone revealed new details about the creature's anatomy, building a more complete understanding of its place in evolutionary history. 3 months into the research, Grace and the team made another breakthrough when they discovered evidence of soft tissue preservation in certain protected portions of the fossil. This extraordinarily rare circumstance would potentially provide insights into the dinosaur's coloration and skin texture, details usually lost to time. The laboratory filled with excited whispers as specialists in molecular paleontology were consulted, their expertise bringing new dimensions to the research. Grace marveled at how science continued to develop new methods for reading the ancient past, each innovation allowing for deeper understanding. The collaborative energy in the lab created a warm atmosphere of shared purpose that Grace found deeply satisfying. Grace's academic reputation soared as preliminary papers about the discovery were published and well received. Invitations to speak at conferences arrived daily, along with collaboration offers from institutions around the world. The sudden attention felt overwhelming at times, contrasting sharply with her usually quiet, contemplative life. During these moments, Grace would retreat to her garden, finding her center again among the plants and birdsong that had led her to this extraordinary journey. The earth beneath her feet remained a grounding force, connecting her to both the ancient past and the present moment. These quiet interludes helped her navigate the increased public interest while maintaining her scientific integrity and personal peace. As fall approached, Grace noticed her relationship with her home had transformed in subtle but meaningful ways. Each time she walked across her property, she felt a deeper connection to the land and its long history before she arrived. The garden where she had made her discovery had been restored, now marked with a small, tasteful plaque commemorating the find. Autumn flowers nodded gently in the breeze, their vibrant colors a reminder of life's continuous renewal against the backdrop of geologic time. Grace often found herself pausing by the site, breathing deeply of the crisp air and feeling an almost spiritual connection to the cycles of existence. The knowledge that her garden had been part of a dinosaur's habitat millions of years ago added a profound dimension to her relationship with the land. One evening, as Grace sat on her porch watching the sunset paint the sky in breathtaking oranges and purples, she received an email that brought her journey full circle. The museum proposed creating an exhibition centered around her discovery, featuring an interactive display about how everyday places can hold extraordinary secrets from the past. The gentle chirping of crickets provided a soothing backdrop, as Grace read about their plans to inspire a new generation of citizen scientists. Stars began to appear overhead, ancient light reaching her eyes and reminding her of how knowledge illuminates darkness across time. The prospect of sharing her discovery story with a wider audience filled Grace with a sense of purpose and connection. Winter arrived, bringing a peaceful blanket of snow that transformed Grace's property into a quiet wonderland of white. The research continued at a steady pace at the university, each week bringing new insights about the dinosaur that had become such an important part of Grace's life. During a weekend at home, Grace found herself walking to the discovery site, her boots crunching satisfyingly in the fresh snow. Her breath formed gentle clouds in the cold air as she stood contemplating how much her life had changed in less than a year. Birds called softly from snow-laden branches, their presence a living reminder of the evolutionary journey from dinosaur to avian. Grace felt a profound gratitude wash over her for the unexpected gift that had been literally buried in her backyard. Spring arrived with a burst of renewal, bringing vibrant green shoots and birdsong back to Grace's property. The museum exhibition about her discovery was scheduled to open in May, coinciding with the publication of the team's comprehensive research findings. Morning dew glistened on new grass as Grace walked the familiar path to where her gardening had led to such an unexpected journey. Butterflies danced among the early blooms, their delicate movements bringing a smile to Grace's face as she contemplated the interconnectedness of all living things. The gentle warmth of the strengthening sun felt like a blessing on her shoulders, nature's approval of the work she had undertaken. The night before the exhibition opening, Grace could hardly sleep, her mind filled with gentle anticipation for the culmination of months of work. She made herself a soothing cup of lavender tea, carrying it out to her porch to listen to the symphony of spring peepers calling from the nearby pond. Stars twinkled overhead, their ancient light a reminder of the vast timescales that had brought her to this moment. The fragrant steam from her cup rose in delicate curls, mirroring her thoughts as they drifted between past, present, and future. Eventually, the rhythmic, natural sounds lulled her into a peaceful state between wakefulness and dreaming, where she imagined conversations with the ancient creature whose discovery had transformed her life. The museum exhibition exceeded even Grace's highest expectations, bringing the ancient world to life through thoughtful displays and interactive elements. Children pressed their faces against the glass housing the carefully preserved bones, their expressions of wonder mirroring what Grace had felt upon making her initial discovery. The gentle murmur of visitors filled the space with appreciative energy, punctuated occasionally by exclamations of surprise or delight. Grace particularly loved the garden recreation that showed where each bone had been found, complete with the subtle sounds of birds and insects that made visitors feel transported to her property. Seeing her academic passion shared so beautifully with the public brought tears to her eyes, a warm fullness expanding in her chest. During her speech at the opening ceremony, Grace emphasized how the discovery had deepened her appreciation for the ordinary places we often take for granted. Her voice carried clearly through the hushed room, the audience leaning forward slightly to catch every word. Sunlight streamed through the museum's high windows, creating a natural spotlight that seemed to underscore the importance of the moment. Grace spoke of time's vastness and the privilege of making connections across millions of years through scientific discovery. The attentive faces before her reflected back the same wonder she still felt, a shared appreciation for the mysteries that surround us. As she concluded, the spontaneous applause washed over her like a warm wave, affirming the value of the journey she had undertaken. In the months that followed, Grace found a beautiful balance between her newfound public role and her peaceful home life. She established a small educational center on her property, where school groups could visit to learn about paleontology through hands-on activities. The joyful sounds of children's excitement became a regular part of her week, their natural curiosity reminding her of what had drawn her to history in the first place. Grace particularly loved watching their careful excavations in the special sandbox area, their faces lighting up with each discovery. The program grew organically through word of mouth, each group leaving with a deeper appreciation for the ancient world that existed beneath their feet. Grace's garden flourished alongside her professional life, now expanded to include plants that had existed during the Cretaceous period. Ferns unfurled their delicate fronds beside flowering ginkgo trees, creating a living connection to the time when her dinosaur had roamed the land. Butterflies and bees hummed happily among the ancient plant species, their movements creating a gentle animation throughout the garden. The sensory experience of touching leaves similar to those the dinosaur might have brushed against brought the past alive in a tangible way that complemented the scientific research. Grace often found herself losing track of time while working among these plants, the soft soil beneath her knees and the earthy scents creating a meditative experience. One perfect summer evening, as fireflies began their enchanting dance across her property, Grace hosted a small gathering to celebrate the first anniversary of her discovery. Colleagues and friends who had been part of the journey sat around tables set up beneath the stars, sharing stories and laughter. The gentle clinking of glasses mixed with night sounds in a pleasant symphony that filled Grace with contentment. Lanterns cast a warm glow over familiar faces, highlighting the connections that had formed through shared purpose and excitement. As darkness deepened, someone pointed out a shooting star streaking across the sky, a momentary flash of brilliance that seemed to symbolize the unexpected nature of discovery. The research team's final paper, naming the new species, Gracillosaurus thomsoni, was published in the most prestigious paleontological journal, cementing the discovery's significance in scientific literature. Grace ran her fingers gently over the printed pages. The slight texture of the paper and smell of fresh ink, creating a sensory memory of this achievement. Birds sang in the oak tree outside her window as she read through the comprehensive description of the dinosaur that now carried her name. The formal scientific language was familiar and comforting, a framework that connected her personal experience to the broader scientific community. Grace felt a profound sense of completion, knowing that this contribution would outlast her own lifetime. As autumn returned, bringing golden light and crisp air to her property, Grace began work on a book aimed at general readers about her extraordinary experience. Morning fog created a mystical atmosphere as she sat at her desk by the window, translating complex scientific concepts into accessible language. The gentle tapping of her keyboard created a rhythm that complemented the occasional bird calls from outside. Grace found that writing about her journey helped her process its meaning more deeply, connecting the factual discoveries with the emotional and philosophical dimensions of connecting with the ancient past. Each chapter felt like a conversation with readers who might find their own unexpected discoveries, an encouragement to remain curious about the world around them. Grace established a scholarship fund for students pursuing paleontology, ensuring that her discovery would continue to generate new knowledge through future generations of researchers. The process of reviewing applications brought a special joy, reading the passionate statements of young people eager to make their own contributions to understanding Earth's history. Autumn leaves created a colorful carpet beneath her feet as she walked the property, contemplating the legacy she was creating that extended far beyond the fossil itself. The cool breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke, a sensory reminder of life's continuous cycles. Grace felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that her unexpected discovery would create ripples of opportunity and knowledge long into the future. University colleagues often commented on the profound change they noticed in Grace. Since her discovery, a deepened sense of purpose and peaceful confidence that enhanced her already considerable expertise. She carried this observation with her on evening walks around her property, contemplating how unexpected gifts often bring transformations we could never have planned for ourselves. Moonlight silvered the familiar landscape, creating an ethereal quality that matched her reflective mood. Grace realized that the fossil had changed her just as significantly as her discovery had changed our understanding of prehistoric life. The reciprocal nature of this relationship between discoverer and discovered felt perfectly balanced, a harmonious exchange across millions of years. The dinosaur exhibit became the museum's most popular attraction, inspiring countless children to develop an interest in paleontology and natural history. Grace made a point of visiting regularly, enjoying the vibrant energy of young minds encountering ancient mysteries for the first time. The gentle hum of voices asking questions and offering observations created a constant background melody throughout the exhibit space. Interactive displays allowed visitors to experience the thrill of discovery through simulated excavations, their faces lighting up with the same excitement Grace had felt in her garden. The knowledge that her accidental find was creating new pathways of curiosity and understanding brought a warm fullness to Grace's heart every time she witnessed these moments. Winter returned, transforming Grace's property once again into a quiet wonderland where she could reflect on the extraordinary journey of the past year and a half. Snowflakes fell softly outside her window as she put the finishing touches on her book manuscript. Each gentle tap against the glass a reminder of nature's continuous patterns. The warmth from her fireplace created a cozy atmosphere perfect for contemplation and gratitude. Grace thought about how simple garden expansion had connected her to something so much larger than herself, a reminder that we never know what wonders might be waiting just beneath the surface of our ordinary lives. The soft crackle of burning wood provided a soothing soundtrack to these reflections, its ancient rhythm another thread connecting present to past. On cold evenings, Grace often found herself studying the complete skeletal reconstruction that now stood in her study, a perfect miniature replica of the museum's centerpiece. Lamplight cast gentle shadows across the delicate structure, highlighting the elegant design that evolution had perfected over countless generations. The soft ticking of her grandfather clock provided a meditative backdrop to these contemplative sessions, its steady rhythm a counterpoint to the vast timescales the fossil represented. Sometimes Grace would close her eyes and imagine the living creature moving through a prehistoric landscape, its movements fluid and purposeful in a world unimaginably different from her own. These quiet moments of connection across time brought a profound peace that deepened with each passing month. As spring approached once again, Grace received news that her property had been designated as a site of special scientific interest, ensuring its protection for future generations. Morning bird song seemed particularly joyful as she read the official notification, nature's approval of this recognition. The early morning light illuminated delicate new growth emerging from the soil, a perfect symbol of continuity and renewal. Grace walked slowly around her land, feeling a profound gratitude for the home that had given her not just shelter, but a connection to deep time. The gentle gurgle of the creek and rustling of new leaves created a peaceful soundtrack for this moment of appreciation. Grace knew that whatever the future held, she had found her place in the vast story of life on Earth. The final page of Grace's book concluded with a simple observation that had come to her while gardening near the original Discovery site. Sometimes the most profound connections happen when we dig a little deeper into the ordinary ground beneath our feet. She typed the last period with a satisfied smile, listening to the evening chorus of spring peepers beginning their nightly serenade. The setting sun cast a golden glow across her desk, warming the space with amber light that felt like approval. Grace closed her laptop and walked outside to her garden, feeling the cool grass beneath her bare feet and the gentle evening breeze against her skin. Stars began to appear overhead as she stood where it had all begun, feeling perfectly aligned with both the ancient past and the present moment. In the growing darkness, fireflies began their enchanting dance once again, their gentle lights connecting earth to sky in perfect harmony.